The following program is a West Tennessee PBS special presentation made possible through the generous financial support of viewers like you. Please visit westtnpbs.org and make a donation today so that we can continue to make local programs like this possible. Thank you.
February means Black History Month across the nation and right here in West Tennessee. Hello, I'm Peter Knoll. Today we're talking about the importance, influence, and legacy of African Americans in Madison County. Let the conversation begin.
That's so cool.
And then that's when I said that.
The problem with that idea is...
Wow, that was amazing.
Then I came up with a solution.
What was that about?
Here's what I think about it.
Now we're talking.
West Tennessee PBS presents Tennessee is Talking. Let the conversation begin.
Welcome to today's show. We're joined by Harrell C. Carter. He's the Jackson-Madison County branch president of the NAACP. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me, Peter.
Very much appreciate it. You have such a vast experience of life from, you're a Vietnam vet, correct?
But era,
okay. Right. I mean, you're a veteran.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You were police department?
Police department.
What else have you done?
Well, I've done a little bit of work with the Public Defender's Office. I have worked with the University of Washington, attended University of Washington in Seattle when I lived there. I have traveled at several places to the Boston area, worked with MIT and the Air Force during my days that I worked for private companies. And I also did some work in Grenoble, France, so there for about a year that allowed me to see much of what I missed when I was there in Germany for 2 years when I was in the military.
It is Black History Month. What is being done to celebrate the legacy and deep roots of all the places I've lived? I have never lived in a city, in a community, that there's such a rich history of African Americans.
Well, we're all about history because history is one of the things that we cherish. And I think, unfortunately, we don't teach much of it in our schools. And most people, as you see today, have no concept about history. And particularly here in the South, we want to hide it the best way that we can or ignore it, oftentimes to our own peril. We have opportunities, unlike many other places in the world, to have the type of people that are skill set that, and we leave so much more on the table. But we have an opportunity to be the greatest nation in the world, to shine a light on the rest of the world what we should be like. Unfortunately, as humans, we make the same mistake over and over again, and we think that we're progressing, but we're really not. We have an opportunity during the time of Dr. King's demise when he was assassinated back in April 3rd, 1968. I remember that day well because I was in the military at the point. I was at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and attached to the 101st Airborne Division because we were the next group that had to go in case things had happened. And thank God that there was some calmness, etc. But we're still struggling as a nation in order to put all the pieces together. And one of the things that when I started my career after leaving the service, I eventually joined the Jackson Police Department. I worked there because I felt like I could do the most good there. I can help get the bad guys off the street, and I can help put pieces of people back together. Well, it's a good concept, but it didn't happen to the extent that I thought it could have. One of the things that happens here in Jackson, Madison County, as well as in the state of Tennessee and the rest of the nation, is that we really don't pick up the pieces, particularly of those human beings that are broken, people that need second and third chances. We tend to maximize the effort of putting people in difficult positions. You know, I'm one that I like to read, and I know that this country has the capacity to feed everyone that's in this country. We have the capacity to let everyone vote their choices. We have a tremendous capacity, but something gets in the way, and usually we call that in our work greed. It usually winds up as fear, ignorance, and greed, and we got too much of that, Peter.
What would you change to make Black History Month more impactful than it already is?
Well, it starts out with making sure that every home, we got 57% of families with children here in Jackson, Madison County that's at or below poverty. During that brief COVID situation where there was some additional income come in, we lifted nearly 50% of children out of poverty. But since that wasn't reauthorized, then they're going back into that same state. The thing that I would do is to put all of our emphasis and efforts on our children. They are our future. We cannot make a mistake by not investing in them. It's no such thing as that we don't have the money or the capacity to invest. No, we choose not to invest. And that in this stage of our development, and we never had a full democracy. I think we've been trying, but we never had a full democracy. But it's attainable. And the only way it's going to be attainable is for us to come together as a people, recognizing that we all are from someplace else, that we all need to be cared for in certain ways. Those that have more should give more. Those who have less, look for opportunities. But everyone here in this country, when the framers started out, it was a brave idea, revolutionary idea. It didn't include everybody. It didn't include women. It didn't include people of color. But over the period of time, at least some of them were aware that things change. And as we go along the way of changing our country for the better, we hope that we recognize that everybody should have a full opportunity of life. Nobody should go hungry in this country, this world. Nobody should be lacking the education. But it seems as though that we demonize those things that are often good, and we address those things that in terms of fear, we have too many guns. The weaponry not only affects law enforcement, but it also obviously affects our families, our neighborhoods, our churches, our schools. And so when we have representation in our state, local, or national level that put things in harm's way of our children, that's a problem. And we as adults, we as God-loving people, we as a community folk, we need to stand up, have the courage to stand up and say so, that these things are not good for our future growth. And that's what we should be looking at. Concentrate on our children. They will be our leaders for tomorrow.
Scale of 1 to 10, how is race relations in Madison County? 10 being great, 1 being horrible.
I would say about 3 or 4.
How do we make it better?
How do we make it better? By start talking with one another. We all have differences and we all have different points of views. We all have a different historical significance of what we remember or what we were told. And I think, one of the things that Harrell Carter, the former U.S. Attorney General, said one time, we are a nation of cowards, and we are. Jackson, Madison County, Tennessee, we are a local, state nation of cowards because we do not address the issues that's always there, but we choose to ignore it. We have things that happen, decisions that are made. We just built a 50 or 60, I don't know how much it's cost. It started out at $43 or $4 million. I think it's over 50 million. Why? Because fear. And unfortunately, our criminal justice system is broken. It needs repairing. We look at our education system, our teachers, they're leaving because they can't teach the children the way that they know they need to reach them. Every child is salvageable. But if we don't have the time and don't have the right method and allow teachers to do what teachers do and professional educators, our superintendents, to do what they need to do, then we'll always have this problem. I'm scared to be in this neighborhood. I don't like that person. They're wearing a hoodie or they're doing this or doing that. So we're ignorant to the fact that we have a chance to change a lot of that, but we choose not to. When I say we choose, because if we're not voting, if we're not picking the leaders that we have in these positions that makes decisions, then what do we expect?
What is the NAACP doing for February Black History Month?
Well, we do it all throughout the year. We just put emphasis on it. We try to bring forth to the general public new people that maybe could address some issues, bring in more knowledgeable people about the different aspects of our city, our county, our nation. We talk about community effectiveness. How do we draw people together? We try to organize our ministers and people of the cloth We take a look at our professional organizations and try to encourage them to do what they maximally can do. We have great people in Jackson, Madison County, and in Tennessee, but we never get outside of the bubble that we find ourselves in because we're afraid of backlash. What's going to happen to us if we do this? What's going to happen to us? As Dr. King said, it's not so much as what's going to happen to the man if I don't have it. It's about how we're going to react to that. What's going to happen to him if we don't? Our children need our support, every bit of it. Right now, it's an attack on public education. It's taking books out of our libraries. We're not putting forth universal preschool. I mean, these are things that we can do. We highlight our economic prowess about getting companies to come, but at the same time, our issues are we're really concentrating on the wrong thing. I think it's much better spent. Activities, one child could make the difference in the world. You know, how many, Dr. Charles Drew, who was able to do blood transfusion, he was an African American, he was in a car wreck and he was hurt and he couldn't get a blood transfusion even though he had invented it. These are things that the common sense types of approach, the humane type of things that we don't do too well. And oftentimes those that are in position, they're not saying what I'm saying. And I know I'm not the sharpest tack in the box. I understand that. I'm no college degree for professorial. But I do know this. If we don't put our emphasis on our young, we're going to keep getting what we're getting. And that makes no sense. To me, we're better than this. But we have to be bold enough to address those issues that needs to be addressing right now, today, not later on down the road. Because we never have enough money to do that, but we spend money on things that we shouldn't have. But those are our decisions. And then when we make those mistakes, then, well, that's just money that's there. We're better people in that, but we need to act like it. We need to stand up boldly and say what we need to say outright to anyone, and it's okay. We need to talk to one another. We all have our differences. I don't agree with me sometimes, but I think things like this have to be said by grown-ups who want to make sure that Jackson, Madison County, the state of Tennessee, and this country become the best that it possibly can be. And right now, we're a long way from it.
So let's play the what if game. What if you were given a check tomorrow for $10 million to spend any way you want to improve Madison County? Where does that $10 million go?
Go to an investment of our children.
How so?
Well, we have universal preschool. We're paying our teachers $65,000, $70,000, maybe $75,000 a year to start. Our law enforcement officers, I mean, $42,000, $43,000. I mean, you leave home, you never know if you're coming back. And we're already low on those two particular groups right now. One of the things they influence is that we have to be able to support those that are going to pour all of their goodness and all of their knowledge into our children. Because if we don't, you talk about AI, listen, AI will figure out real quickly that we're ineffective. We're no longer needed. But we have an opportunity to really address poverty in this country, in this city, this county, and to fix hunger. We got homelessness. We got all of those issues. Now, everybody's aware of it, and we have a few centers to take care of that, and we can feed people on Thanksgiving and Christmas primarily. We got those that provide places for those who are homeless and mentally ill, for example. These are things that are fixable, but we need money. So I would take that $10 million and spread it out as much as I could to try to make sure that at least this group of people has, in that particular day and time, will have an opportunity and a chance to prosper. I think investing, and I think there was a study that was done, for every dollar we put into education a child, we're going to get $3 or $4 back. But we don't think like that. You know, we think that we need to have all of these folks locked up. And we got the most brilliant people I've ever known, some of the ones I locked up. They were brilliant. They just went in the wrong path because that was the only path that was given to them. But we throw away talent every day. And most of our children, unfortunately, don't get out of grade school.
Black history. Who stands out in your mind, local people that really had an impact?
Samuel McElway. You've got...
Tell us about him.
Samuel McElway was the first black state representative from the state of Tennessee after the Civil War. He was elected in 1882 from Madison County. And he was able to go to the state legislature, but he was not able to sit in the state legislature. Shortly after that, in the 1880s, Grant, I think he was either president or had just left office. And then you had, of course, we had Andrew Johnson that took Lincoln's place, and that was a disaster. He was the first one that was ever impeached, but he escaped that by one vote, and that's because he had I think he had a brother-in-law here in Tennessee that was one of the senators. But I think that when we look at that period of time, it was awesome to have black men to step up. And remember, it wasn't black women. Black men stepped up because women wasn't allowed, black or white. So he got put into that space, and he was very vocal. People were respectful of him. In fact, they even suggested, small group, that he be Speaker of the House, but he never was given that chance. I had a chance to visit the state capitol years ago, and I was looking for their photographs and their pictures, and I found them in the basement. But he left in 1888 because he was getting harassed. I think people had stolen some of the family's land, and he became, I think, sickly and stuff. I think he moved to Chicago and finished out the rest of his life. But those are people that I respect because they were brave enough to say, I'll go. It's just like in the military. You know, we fought in the military in 1863 as far as the 61st U.S. Colored Infantry. There was a group of slaves, former slaves, that was able to band together to create an armed group. And they fought Nathan Bedford Forrest's troop. Nathan Bedford Forrest's troop tried to retake Memphis. They fought in Alabama, and I think went on to Maganzas, Florida, to fight in there before they were disbanded in 1865. You've had other folks that was, these are the earlier folks that was here. Bishop Isaac Lane, you know, Delphus Lane bought his mother off a slave ship in Memphis in 1818, and he was born in 1832. And he became a bishop in the CME Church, and he was able to, along with other bishops, to create colleges, and they created about 4 colleges in this country, Lane College here being one of them. There's so many other people. I can go back and to name my teachers that I had for first grade. I went to Catholic school here in Jackson with what they call St. Joseph at the time, that was built in 1916. Now, that's not when I went to school, but you know, I was right behind it. But I think that, you know, Jackson, Madison County, Tennessee history is rich. It's also sad. There was a lot of hangings going on. Ida B. Wells visited Jackson one time. She lost a court case here one time. I think that was in 1892, something like that. But a lot of history here that we don't know because we don't teach it. Most people don't know their history. Jackson, Madison County is no different, black or white. We don't know history.
How, if somebody said, I want to learn about black history that I wasn't taught in school, where would you suggest they go? Who would you suggest they talk to?
Well, there's a few books that are written, and I think one of those books, I think I talked to his grandson a few months back. Gentleman by the name of, let me think of his name. Name escapes me right now, but there's a few books, if you can find them. There's also the state archives that has a lot of information in it. I know that our organization, the NAACP, was chartered back in 1920. That was during the Red Summers, they call them. There was riots going on everywhere, all over the country. And that was during the time of like yellow fever or something as well. World War I was ending. And there was a lot going on, and then there was a great migration to the north during that period of time. But when you take a look at our history during our state archives, The county governments have records as well. We're still finding records of where people in Jackson, Madison County sold black folks to other folks, had them in their will to give to other folks for a price, $500 here, $400 here. We have to piece it together. Most of the history that Jackson knows has somewhat been kind of canned, and that's why I say nobody really knows. We have several groups now that are working on that behalf, but we have.
What groups are those?
Well, our group is one. We have a history committee that we're looking at those things. I think there's a few other people in the town here that's also looking at that. Jackson is a unique place if we found the right history. We had a bicentennial about a year ago. It was 1822 when we started. And of course, Madison County at that time, which is named after James Madison, the president. Jackson's named after Andrew Jackson. He had I think a sister or something that lived here at the time. And he was a great hero of the War of 1812, so they thought. But Haywood County was a part of Madison County. Madison County was one of the largest counties, if not the largest, in the state of Tennessee when it was put together in 1796, I believe. But
and Haywood broke off then, or they separated it?
Willingly, it's told right. They gave Haywood County. I can't think of the gentleman's name Haywood, but they gave them part of Madison County. But there's during the time have slavery. King Cotton was king. Traded on the New York Stock Exchange to the extent that New York wanted to secede with the Union, and the state had said, no, you're not going to do that, because they was making so much money. And, I think it was 3 out of 4 whites had a slave or access to a slave during that period of time. And there was a lot of hangings on the courthouse square. There were several. Only ones that we could prove was the 2, I believe, and Mr. Brown, and of course another, Elijah Woods was the other one. But there was a lot of stuff that was going on in that history, but there's pieces everywhere. We just need to put them all together. And so far, nobody has been able to do that, but we're trying to do that.
What would you, if you had to give the county a grade on how we are celebrating Black history and how we've been doing it recently, what grade do you give Madison County?
I would say a 3 or 4. Because even though we're conscious of Black history, most people, we look at the statue of the Confederate soldier at the courthouse. And to those that know history, that statue represents a lot of pain, a lot of rape, a lot of misery. It's what it represents. We know how it started. It was erected, I think, started in 1882. I think they erected it in 1884. The Lost Cause. It was about states' rights. No, it was about slavery. And for anyone to say otherwise is fooling themselves, or they're just telling a lie. Those remnants of that still is here today. We don't want to recognize. We don't even want to tell our children their own history. Some of them are wise enough to research and know a little bit more, but for the most part, we don't know history. And until we recognize one and the other as full-blooded human beings, then we can change a lot of stuff that the county commission does. Change a lot of stuff that a lot of people here in this county, this city, that has the power to do stuff, but won't do it because they're afraid to. They don't want to go against the norm. We don't want to be in the wrong circles. We got our family heritage to. No, present day people were not there during the slave. They never owned the slave. But they're living off the residuals. But they can't understand that.
Do you think today's, especially youth culture, is not as involved in the movement towards better relations and equality as they were back in MLK's day?
Well, the misnomer is that back in MLK day, it was new, it was fresh. They built their movement off of the Pullman car porters movement out of the 1842s and 3s and 4s. Young people got involved because they were tired of it. But we have to remember, those were just a small amount of people. Even though they had large crowds, it was still small. Most black churches didn't want Dr. King in their pulpit because he was too radical. there was a few white evangelical folks that went to his aid, but like the letters from the Birmingham jails that was trying to say, Martin, you're moving too fast, you're moving too fast. So, as he says, it's always the right time to do the right thing. But unfortunately, most people, again, they step back and they're afraid to say what needs to be said. And, I applaud those that put themselves out there, the whites that do that. But, and still whiteness is a construct. It's not anything that's was made automatically. We made that up. But it served a purpose. But for those that step out there, which is very, very, very few, I applaud them. But this is where all of us need to go. We don't have to agree on everything, but there are just certain things in accordance with, if we say that we're religious, needs to do. But white preachers are not talking about it in their places, for the most part. And some of them get thrown out if they do. And and even though it's talked about in our churches, as they said, we pray about it, but then we'd have to be about it. And that's the problem. Most people don't.
Well, it's certainly, as you said, Black History is not just once a month. It's
not just once a month, it's all day, every day, 24/7.
There's a lot more work to do and a lot more to learn.
Yes, and
Our time is up, but we look forward to having you back on Tennessee is Talking. Harrell, thank you so much for joining us. Harrell Carter,
well, thank you, sir.
NAACP.
Appreciate having you.
Appreciate it.
Welcome to your new home.
Thank you. We love being in Jackson. We do indeed. Remember, you can stream today's show and all of our local shows for free on the PBS app, the West Tennessee PBS YouTube channel, and of course on westtnpbs.org. I'm Peter Knoll. Until our next conversation, take care and thank you for watching West Tennessee PBS's Tennessee is Talking.
This program you've been watching was made possible through the generous financial support of West Tennessee PBS viewers like you. Please visit westtnpbs.org and make a donation today so that we can continue to make local programs like this possible. Thank you.